Princess, and we are back with part 5 of Seduce Me, part 2 on James's route. So I did a little bit of a pre-play just to kind of figure out how things needed to be done, and it's actually really, really easy. Basically, I figured out all the answers that you need to do, and that's to get a certain achievement that I already got on accident, didn't mean to get it beforehand, but that way you know what answers you need to pick in order to get this achievement. If you want to, you do not have to pick these answers that I picked. So we're going to go ahead and jump right on in. And here we go. I stood in front of my mirror in my room, staring at my form as a million thoughts ran through my mind. It was just a housewarming party, but at the same time, it wasn't. It was my chance to show my dad that I was better than his expectations. It was a chance for me to see my parents as a woman. It was my test to see if I was really ready to live on my own. Well, not truly alone. I had the incubi to thank, but even so, I didn't have my dad guiding me or my mom helping me through living alone. A knock on my door broke my thoughts, surprising me. Who is it?
Hey, are you okay in there? Your parents should be here soon, so you should hurry getting ready.
Well, I'm ready, but...
But what? I'm sure you look fine, Anderson. Just come on out.
Alright. As soon as I opened the door to the hall, I watched as Naomi's and Suzu's faces turned from smiles to complete awestruck stares. What?
Dude, you look hot. Yeah, you look amazing. Where did you get that dress?
I've had it for a while, I just never had the chance to wear it. I figured I might as well bring it out now. I stepped out of my room and closed my bedroom door behind me. As I walked down the hall to the grand lobby, the incubi stood there for me at the bottom, all dressed to nines as proper servants.
Whoa, they really know how to dress well, don't they?
Yeah. I was slightly taken aback by how great the boys looked in uniform. Each had the poise of a perfect gentleman, even Sam. I slowly began to climb down the steps with Suzu and Naomi behind me. The boys watched as I descended the staircase one step at a time, like knights waiting for their princess. I felt my face slightly flush, but I quickly shook my head to try and regain my thoughts. As I reached the last step, James offered his hand to me and walked me down the final step, smiling.
As beautiful as a princess, miss.
Thank you.
So, are you prepared for tonight?
Yes, I'm ready as I'll ever be. To be honest, no. So you could pick any of these answers. It doesn't really matter which one you pick. I'm just going to go with as ready as I'll ever be. I couldn't deny that I was nervous, but I had to try. This party was more than what it seemed, and I had done all that I could to prepare for it. Now, it was all up to fate. The other boys smiled assuringly at me, which made me feel a little better about everything. I looked at my phone and marked the time, almost right on cue. The doorbell rang. I gulped. I could practically feel my dad's aura from behind the door. Sam and Eric quickly rushed to the door and opened the double doors wide to reveal my parents, both dressed in their best. Hey, Mom. Hey, Dad.
Oh my, I didn't know your bequeathment came with servants.
It was probably overlooked. Besides, who would deny good service?
I was entirely shocked. My parents didn't question the boys. They didn't ask for verification or anything. I looked to the boys and noticed Sam and Eric staring intently at my parents. Were they using their powers on them? They had to be. There was no way they'd be okay with this otherwise.
I guess the servants counted as belongings to the house.
My mother quickly rushed to me and gave me a large hug. I hugged her back, inhaling her perfume. It had been a couple of days, but living away from the ones who raised me was hard. My mother soon let me go and looked at my outfit.
Oh, gorgeous. You look so lovely. David, look at your daughter and tell her I'm right.
I looked to my dad, who was looking around the lobby like an inspector. I stood my ground, waiting for him to look at me. When he did, he let a small smile grace his lips.
Your mother's right. You look like you're all grown up.
The world around me stopped as my heart pounded hard in my chest. Did my dad just compliment me? On his own accord? My mother was grinning ear to ear at his words. I was beyond speechless. Thank you, Daddy. However, his cold face quickly returned as he began to look around once again.
I assume that you're ready, then, to impress the rest of the guests, correct?
What do you mean?
The entire board from Anderson Toys is coming tonight. Even the vice chairman's son will be coming. All of them will be measuring your potential.
My potential?
To become CEO of the company.
I knew it. Something was off about tonight, and now this party had become such more than I anticipated. I gulped silently, but I nodded in response. I looked to the incubi, but they were continuing to be servants for my father's approval. I looked behind me and saw Naomi and Suzu raise their thumbs at me for encouragement. I let out a small breath before feeling my body accept the situation. I felt the weight in my gut, but I had to hide it. As if time zoomed forward, all of a sudden, the main hall of the lobby was full of guests. Men and women in formal or business attire showed up to meet me and see my new home. I didn't expect many to come, but I was once again surprised that night. I shook hands with many officials and executive members, putting on the professional face my dad trained me to have. I felt overwhelmed, but I hid it well behind a small smile and a handshake. Many even asked me questions. I tried my best to reply as maturely as possible. I had to remember, say what they want to hear, not what you want to say.
So, how do you feel living on your own at such a young age?
I'm so sorry about your grandfather passing.
So?
I'm so sorry about your grandfather passing away. It really hit all of us hard.
So for this, you'll put thank you for your condolences.
Do you have college plans?
And remember, this is the answers you pick if you're trying to get the achievement called Dad's approval. I felt like the questions came up one after another. It was tough to answer some of them because they weren't about me, they were about the company.
What do you think will happen with the company now that your grandfather has passed?
What do you think of the philanthropic policy the company has?
Do you think the company should expand from just toys?
Eventually the questions stopped and I was back to being myself. Naomi and Suzu were mingling in the crowds and the incubi were doing their jobs. So I was all alone in the room full of strangers. It was unnerving to think about, but at least I wasn't being questioned left and right anymore. Suddenly, though, my mom pushed her way through the crowd to me, bringing along someone I didn't know.
Honey, I'd like to introduce you to someone. This kind gentleman is the son of the vice chairman.
With my mother stood a man who looked only a couple years older than me. He smiled and held out his hand, silently asking for my hand.
Hi, I'm Andrew Lewis. It's a pleasure to meet you, Miss Anderson.
As I placed my hand in his, he raised it to his lips and kissed over my knuckles. I felt my face burn slightly at the gesture. Andrew smiled at me before releasing my hand.
I'm honored to be invited here.
My mother smiled at both of us, which made me slightly concerned. Why is she excited to introduce me to Andrew?
So, you organized this party very well, Miss Anderson.
We're gonna be nice and just put thank you, because, we worked hard.
This is very much deserved.
Andrew then chuckled nervously, bringing a soft fist to his lips to cover his laugh properly before smiling at me.
I'm sorry if I seem a little forward. I've just been excited to meet Harold Anderson's granddaughter.
Huh? Why?
He used to talk about you all the time in the office on how you helped him refine his toys. I only attended meetings and heard all of the stories. You've helped a lot with the success of the company without having to actually work there.
Oh boy. Oh, wow. I didn't know he talked about me. But that would explain everyone's fascination with me and their rather personal questions. I looked to Andrew, who had a kind face to me. Something about him seemed off. I didn't know what it was. He seemed to be hiding something. Whether it was good or bad, I was not able to find out. I felt someone walk up beside me, causing me to turn to them. Next to me was my dad, giving his cold stare to Andrew, who suddenly became tense.
So, you're Jared's son.
Andrew's body twitched slightly. Whether it was fear or insult, Andrew locked his eyes with my father. I couldn't help but feel the tension between them. It irked me how fragile the air had become, enough to break at the wrong word.
You're the one who wants to be the next CEO of the Anderson Company.
I stared at Andrew. This guy wanted to take my grandfather's place as CEO. I thought the vice chairman wanted the position.
David, leave the poor boy alone.
I'm merely testing the boy's conversational skills. Nothing wrong with that. Of course not, sir. And polite as well. Interesting. If you'll excuse me.
Quickly, Andrew retreated away from my family into the crowd of people. Okay, so that was that had to have been really awkward for Andrew. That poor boy. Oh, geez. Your dad's a dick. Our dad's a dick. That's the only way to describe it. Unfortunately, if you want to do James's route, you have to stay put. Unfortunately, I want to follow him, sweet Andrew boy. Sorry. I watched as he disappeared into the crowd towards the back of the house. I was worried, but I give him his space. He obviously needed it.
He's not CEO material.
Oh, you're not dad material either, but look where you are.
That's because you practically interrogated the young man.
A little questioning shouldn't have bothered him. He's obviously not ready for any title in our company.
I bit my tongue. I didn't want to make a scene with my dad. One wrong word and he'd lecture me in front of everyone. That was not something that I wanted at my housewarming party. I let it aside before looking at the clock. It was getting close to midnight, meaning that the party was going to end soon. I lowered my gaze out the window and saw a limo pull up. Huh? Whose limo is that?
Oh, that must be Lewis's car.
I'll go get him. Stay with your father so you can escort your guests out together.
Yes, Mom. My mother left my dad and me to slowly escort the guest out. My dad held his simple smile as he thanked each person for coming. I did the same. Andrew quickly passed the doors before I could speak. Eventually, only Suzu, Naomi, and my parents and the incubi were left. My dad suddenly walked over and placed a hand on my shoulder with a smile. I stared up at him, a wave of confusion washing over my face. What?
You did good tonight. I'm proud.
Oh, well, thank you, Dad.
Keep it up, and you'll be a good CEO.
Oh, right.
All right. Your mother and I have to leave. I'm sure Naomi and Suzu need to leave as well. Just because it's Saturday doesn't mean you should stay up all night.
Yeah, it does. Oh, right.
Thanks for having us. It was a great party. We'll come visit tomorrow or something. All right?
All right, right. See ya.
Good night, sweetie. Come visit us soon.
Mom, I love your accent. Will do. All 4 of my remaining guests left the building, all but my dad waving back to me. With the last of the guests gone, I sighed and sat on the staircase, exhausted. Phew, that was tiring.
It's not like you had to do any work, though.
Give her a break, man. She was getting interrogated left and right.
She handled herself the best she could.
As expected, princess.
Since you're exhausted, why not head to bed? We can clean up.
Sam, no.
Hush, Sam.
Are you guys sure?
Positive. It shouldn't take long. Oh, it didn't take long to find you little shits after all.
I felt a hot shudder run down my spine. The voice from my dreams echoed through the air into my ears. I looked around, panicked. Alongside the incubi, James placed a hand on my shoulder, trying to remain calm.
Don't worry. No one will hurt you.
Are you sure? Are you really sure?
All of us shot our heads towards the door, finally pinning down the direction of the voice. The doors quickly swung open, revealing a sight I would have never expected to see. Skin red as blood, eyes black and gold piercing into mine, roughened up clothes and a pistol in his hand. I saw a monster. I covered my mouth not to scream at the sight. Dried blood covered the bandana around his neck as he smirked at me and the boys around me. Beside the red-skinned man was a similar-looking woman in matching thug-like clothes.
Oh, what's the matter, boys? You really didn't think I wouldn't find you, did you?
I hoped you would, you piece of...
All of a sudden, the man raised his gun at Sam's face and instantly pulled the trigger. We all gasped in shock, instinctively expecting to see bullet run through Sam's face, but...
What the fuck? What?
What should have been a headshot ended with a loud but empty blank shot. The pistol echoed its empty shots as the man grew more and more pissed, pulling the trigger over and over in aggravation. Luckily for my ears, it became quieter after its first shot.
Why the fuck would you work?
Oh, sorry, I covered the speaker.
This place is protected.
What did you say, Shrimp?
This place has a seal, protecting it from hellborn magic.
Ooh, fancy words.
What the fuck is that supposed to mean?
The man growled and threw his gun at Sam, who was able to dodge it in time. The pistol bounced off the ground a couple of times before sliding further away, hitting the wall in a final stop. As it stopped moving, the gun faded into black flames that disappeared into the air.
The previous owner had this place protected by magic, Alex.
Malix, that was his name. His existence resonated into my memory from the dream I had. However, I looked to Matthew in the same confusion as Malix did. This place is protected by... magic?
It would seem that your grandfather had some sort of protective barrier around this house. From the looks of it, it only disables hellborn magic.
Malik's face grew to that of extreme anger. His fist tightening as if he was crushing a stress ball. I am so sorry, you guys. That was awful.
What's stopping me from dragging your asses out and shooting you then?
Out of pure instinct, I stepped forward and placed myself between Malix and the boys. With no power, Malix wasn't going to fight. I took that chance to stand up to him instead of being powerless like I was in the dream. Fuck off, get out of my house, leave me alone. Ooh, okay. We're gonna do this one, I'm sorry. Malix suddenly laughed wildly, staring at me in disbelief.
Whoa! Let the bitch out of her cage! What is this? A reverse harem or something?
That laugh, though. Malix grinned at me evilly, walking closer to me. Oh. We're gonna do dunk. I don't even know if that was the right one. I mean duck, not dunk. I ducked underneath Malix's incoming hand. I stared at his hand and his black flame tattoo in surprise as I took a couple of steps back from Malix. Matthew and Damien stepped in front of me, guarding me from Malix with their arms.
A quick one. I'm liking you more and more.
Please don't. I don't want you.
Back off, Malix! Don't start acting tough, you pathetic excuse of a demon. You need more protection than her. Shut up! Oh, did I make little Matthew cry? Why don't you just grow a pair?
Enough, Malix.
The woman, who had been standing in silence the whole time, planted a firm hand on Malix's shoulder. Malix looked back at her with a growl and a glare that could kill.
Since when did you get the guts to speak out of place?
We both know you never controlled me. I want them dead just like you two. But now's not the time.
Fuck off! I know what I'm doing.
Do you? Even if you did fight them, there's 5 against 2. We'd never win.
Shut up!
Let's go, Malix! We're wasting our time!
The two growled at each other. If they could have used their magic, I could sense that fire would glow from underneath their teeth. Malix grunted and glared at the boys. He pointed at James, wanting so badly to use his finger like a knife.
Just wait, boys. We'll get you and fuck you up real good. Don't think you're safe.
Sorry, guys, I done messed up. Then Malix turned to me, moving his finger to point directly between my eyes.
And don't think you're safe. Step outside. I dare you.
With that, Malix and the woman walked out of the mansion. The doors closed behind them, leaving leaving the boys and I alone once again. I felt my knees give out from under me, forcing the boys to quickly turn to catch me.
Whoa! Are you alright?
Yeah. Why was he here?
He's been closely tracking us. Our blood trail from the forest must have led him here.
Should have stopped him and finished it here.
For once, Matthew, I agree with you.
I stood up and rubbed my arms, feeling the goosebumps Malix left behind on me. I couldn't stop myself from shivering in fear of his words. Malix, was he a demon?
That son of a bitch is not a demon. He's a devil.
A devil? There's a difference?
Yes, demons come from a different plane of existence called the abyssal planes. Devils, however, come from one of the seven circles of a place humans know. It's hell. Despite us not being human, we are very different creatures.
We actually have brains, for one. Devils always like to cause trouble and try to kill or torture others for their own enjoyment. Demons, like us, know when to use our powers and when not to. We're not stupid.
Devils follow orders from higher-ups in their order. Their power only comes from their connection to hell. Demons all have free wills and don't rely on where they came from to use their powers.
This was all so confusing. Demons and devils and magic all existed, and I happened to land in the middle of it. What do we do?
You're safe. You've been protected as well.
What?
What Damien's saying is that the magic that protects this place also protects you.
Your grandfather must have cast it when you last saw him or something of that nature. We can sense its aura around your body.
I couldn't believe my ears. It was the third day of surprises, and this one took the cake, in being the most surprising. I felt my head spin once again. What did I get myself into?
Miss, please don't worry. We'll find a way to train ourselves and become stronger to finally finish this feud.
I'll kick his ass right now.
Until then, we'll protect you as much as we can. If Malix comes back, we'll be here for you.
What about going outside? Won't he...
Like we said, you have a protection spell on you. Even if Malix attacks you, he won't be able to use his magic on you. He'd be just like any other human you can fight back against.
Didn't you say you knew Taekwondo?
Yeah, I did. Well, yeah. I felt somewhat relieved that I was mostly safe from Malix. Still, I could not help but feel very nervous and apprehensive about the future. The boys were safe here to train and become stronger, but what if Malix did the same? Even more so, I was lost about how my grandfather knew about magic. I had to find out. At least I had time. I went to bed that night feeling nervous. Despite the words of the incubi, I felt like a target to something I had never been able to explain or prove. Magic? Devils? Demons? How did all of this happen? Should I really meddle with the situation? They're only staying until after they defeat Malix. That's right. They said they'd only stay until after they defeated Malix. Right after that, my life could go back to normal. Temporary insanity, as Kay would say. The question was, would I want them to leave? If my life went back to normal, then I'd have to care for the house all on my own. I'd get to focus on my life instead of being distracted by the boys. I'd have to. My life. Where was my life going anyway? I was under pressure from my parents with only my friends and the boys to comfort me. Without the boys, I'd have no way to hide from my responsibilities. Enough. Let's just sleep and deal with tomorrow when it comes. Defeating my senses of thought, I forced myself to sleep, unsure of what tomorrow had planned for me. Hopefully, whatever the future had for me, I would be ready for it.
I promise to be with you forever. You're so important to me.
I swear I'll give my life to you. Please, let me love you.
I'll be by your side, always.
I can't imagine living without you.
I want to be with you.
I love you.
I slowly opened my eyes, letting the voices of my dream echo in my head and force me awake. I rubbed my eyes before sitting up and looking at my clock. 7 a.m. Why am I up so early? I fell back into bed and closed my eyes, trying to get back to sleep. However, something kept me awake. Why? It was too early to even be alive. I gave up and sat up, staring at the fireplace across from my bed. A sigh escaped from between my lips before I threw my legs over the side of the bed. What to do at 7 a.m. in the morning? Let's explore the house. That looks like fun. I decided it was a good idea to wander around the house. I never really explored it much as a child, so there was bound to be new surprises. Well, come on, feet, let's go on an adventure. I stood and exited my room, hoping that the boys were still asleep. I began to wander the halls on my end of the house, opening each door to find what room each door led to. I'm so sorry. Quickly I found an old office, a desk and a chair by the far side as a large bookshelf of documents and memorial donned its nooks and crannies. There were a couple of pictures of me growing up peeking from the shelf as I walked further into the room. I don't believe I've been in here before. I tried to recall memories of ever seeing this room, coming up with nothing as a result. This room was new to me. Did I want to disturb the furniture? I'm curious. I slowly opened the shelves and any drawers I saw in the room, and a couple of them were books and even sewing kits. I assumed they were used for my grandfather's toys, so I left them alone. One drawer, however, was locked, no matter how many times I pulled. Grr, come on, open! Nothing. It would not budge. The drawer beside it, though, did, revealing a laptop. Why is there a laptop in a drawer? I lifted it from the drawer and carried it over to the desk and chair, opening it. It was a high-tech laptop with a retina scanner as a pass lock. I was not sure whether or not to try and unlock it. Let's be rebellious! We're gonna unlock it. I decided to try. I turned on the computer and leaned... Oh, that said retina. I'm sorry, that was a fail. I turned on the computer and leaned my face near the retina scanner, lining the computer up with my eye. To my surprise, I heard a ping come from the computer before the screen opened to a desktop. Huh? Look at that. On the desktop were documents and folders labeled with different aspects of the Anderson Company. Taxes, profits, bylaws, products. The list went on and on. If I really did want to become the CEO of Anderson Toys Company, I had everything about it right at my fingertips. Dad sure would be impressed. One icon, however, stood out from the rest. Vorigo. Okay, Vorigo! I double-clicked the icon, but no window came up. Instead, I heard a large click from the drawer that was locked. What the? I slowly left my seat and walked over to the drawer, attempting to open it again. It slid open smoothly in the direction of my pulling hand, revealing two books. One with a plain black journal with a tie to keep it closed, the other was bound in leather with cryptic symbols all over the cover. I took out the journal and skimmed through it, seeing my father's notes. They were all detailed explanations and opinions on his findings on demon magic. He really did know about magic. I sat down at the desk and read through the journal further, finding drawings and sketches of symbols and magic circles, each with their own different meanings and effects. It was all fascinating. There was even a page of important spells to know. I read through them, trying to memorize them in my mind. Sorry. I don't know what came over me, but I started to feel more energetic and more powerful simply reading my grandfather's notes. I was suddenly aware of the energy that surrounded my body and the power that was around the house. The more I read, the more powerful I became. However, my mind suddenly froze and I found myself walking back to the drawer, putting the book back and closing the drawer. The lock reset and I snapped out of it. Huh? What? I shook my head and looked at the drawer, realizing what I had done. I walked over to the desk to reopen it, but suddenly felt the need to stop. Something held me back. I didn't want me to pry any more than I already had. I was curious beyond belief, but I obeyed my thoughts for now. Eventually, I would come back and look into it. I returned to bed, feeling the weight of the morning drag me under my covers to try sleeping again. I had energy, but I wanted more sleep. It was Sunday and nothing was happening today. Come on, eyes. Back to sleep. I shut my eyes and tried to slow my breathing. I looked at my phone to check the time once again. It was noon, yet I felt like I had slept for much longer. Alright, you guys, we are going to end this episode here, but we will be picking right back up. I'm going to change my thing to only uploading 1 episode a day, just because that would be easier for me. But I'm going to go ahead and do pre-records, that way I can work on other games and Let's Plays that I plan to do in the future. So that will be exciting. Alright, see you next time, you guys. Thanks for watching.